Back in 1985, at a construction site in the capital of Yugoslavia, workers accidentally uncovered a tomb that had been sealed for over 300 years. What caught everyone's attention was the strange condition of the bodies inside. They hadn't fully decomposed, and their bodies were covered in lime. It was obvious they had died from some kind of plague. One of the workers, just from a minor cut by the bones, mysteriously died before the ambulance could even arrive. When the police lifted the white cloth off his body, they were stunned to find signs of decomposition had already started, something you wouldn't expect in someone who had just died. For safety, the authorities ordered the forensic team to seal all the bodies tightly and warned them not to leak any information to the public. But just as this order was given, something terrifying happened. The corpse on the stretcher suddenly came back to life. Its face was twisted in a horrifying snarl, clearly transformed into a zombie. Cut to the presidential palace, where a high-ranking military officer urgently reports the incident to the president. Hearing that the dead worker had risen again with aggressive behavior shocked the president deeply. But the military had already secured the site and removed all the bodies for containment. After thorough research, scientists made a chilling discovery. This virus had the ability to reanimate dead cells and turn infected individuals into bloodthirsty, highly aggressive creatures. The potential for weaponizing such a virus was terrifying. If harnessed as a bioweapon, its destructive power would be unimaginable. Following this revelation, the president, acting on the advice of his top officials, signed a secret research agreement to study and possibly control the virus. Fast forward 20 years later, we find ourselves at a suburban train station near a military base preparing for a joint exercise. To maintain security, all civilian trains are banned from stopping, and nearby network signals have been completely jammed. At the station is an older man wearing glasses, a professor who, unaware of the restrictions, finds himself stranded there. Meanwhile, 3 American soldiers stroll out from the military base and casually wander toward the station, looking for some fun before the exercise kicks off. Security guards quickly intervene, warning them not to cross the train tracks. It's dangerous and strictly forbidden. But the soldiers shrug off the caution and even ask the guards if there are any cool spots nearby to hang out. As they were talking, suddenly a train pulled into the station. A person dressed in a hazmat suit stepped off. It was part of a military biohazard transport. Seeing this, the security guard urged the 3 soldiers to leave immediately for safety reasons. But instead of listening, the soldiers ignored the warnings and started joking around with the guard at the worst possible moment. One of them even grabbed the guard's pistol. When the guard tried to take it back, things quickly got out of hand. In the chaos, the gun accidentally went off, first hitting the biohazard officer, and then the second bullet struck the biohazard train itself. Suddenly, a thick green gas burst out, quickly engulfing the injured officer and the station manager. Realizing the danger, the guard rushed inside, grabbed a gas mask from a drawer, and tossed it to the professor, urging him to put it on immediately. But before he could put his own mask on, the guard suddenly collapsed, doubled over and coughing up blood. The professor was horrified by the scene and ran outside screaming for help. Outside, the gas spread like a dense fog, making it impossible to see even a few feet ahead. After a while, the poisonous gas finally cleared. The professor went back inside, trying to call for help, but the phone lines were dead. Then he noticed the security guard was missing. Shocked, he followed a trail of blood and found the guard crawling out from under a table. Thinking the guard was okay, the professor approached. To his horror, the guard had already turned into a zombie. Before he could react, the undead guard lunged at him with clawing hands. Terrified, the professor fled for his life. Outside was even worse. Those soldiers had mutated too, and the toxic gas was still spreading. Not far from the station, a nearby church wasn't spared either. A recently released prisoner, the bald guy, was passing by when a pale-faced nun approached him. She claimed she'd been attacked, that a man bit her for no reason. No sooner had she spoken than the man appeared nearby, and it was clearly a zombie. Just as the bald guy was about to ask if this was the attacker, the nun suddenly turned and lunged at him, now a zombie herself. But this bald guy wasn't messing around. He snapped her neck without hesitation. Another zombie came at him, and he quickly took it down as well. After all that, he even paused to strike a cool pose, showing off his tough guy vibe.
For the great day of their wrath is come.
Just as the bald guy was finishing his little show-off moment and getting ready to leave, the professor suddenly appeared behind him, panicked and warning. "There's a lunatic right behind you. You need to run." But the bald guy didn't even flinch. Instead, he calmly started lecturing the professor about life and truth like nothing was wrong. Realizing this guy's a few cards short of a full deck, the professor didn't argue and bolted. Meanwhile, 3 zombies slowly closed in on the bald guy. Cool as a cucumber, he pulled 2 pistols from his bag and with just a few quick shots, took them down effortlessly. Well, when you're holding the truth in your hands, I guess you've got every reason to be that chill. At the same time, a group of college students was driving down the highway when their car suddenly broke down. One sharp-eyed girl spotted some figures up ahead. As they got closer, they nearly jumped out of their skins. Just then, the professor came running over, slamming himself on the hood and begging for help. But these poor kids were in no better shape. The car wouldn't start no matter what. With zombies closing in, they had no choice but to ditch the vehicle and run for their lives. Across the highway, more unlucky souls were rolling into this nightmare zone. A couple of agents and some cops were escorting a very important prisoner to the nearby jail. They were casually chatting, completely unaware of the danger waiting just around the corner. Suddenly, there was a loud crash. The car had hit something on the road. Agents Reyes and the sheriff quickly jumped out to check it out. Lying motionless on the pavement was a man. At first, they thought it was a serious accident, but they had no idea this was actually a zombie. Just as they were about to call the local cops to handle the situation, a boy suddenly came screaming out of a nearby building, clearly running from something terrifying. Sensing something was very wrong, the 2 agents immediately drew their weapons and cautiously followed him inside. What they found was chaos, blood splattered everywhere on the floor. Then, from the bathroom, came an unsettling noise. Both agents tensed up and stared at the door. The next second, a zombie slowly emerged. Its ripped open belly even had some intestines hanging out. Agent Mina, seeing the disgusting sight, instantly retched all over the floor. Just when another zombie appeared from the side, the 3 of them didn't hesitate. They turned and ran for their lives. But when they got outside, they found that the prisoner transport vehicle was acting strange. A bad feeling washed over them instantly. As they cautiously approached the van, they realized the driver and a fellow officer had both turned into zombies. Reyes and the sheriff didn't hesitate. They opened fire and quickly took down the mutated driver and officer. Fortunately, the prisoner, the curly-haired guy locked safely inside the secure compartment, was unharmed. They planned to transfer the prisoner to another vehicle and get out of there as fast as possible. But just as they were about to move, the gunshots had attracted a massive horde of zombies. It was clear things had gone horribly wrong. The sheriff immediately ordered the officers to get ready to drive. But just as one of them tried to get into the car, a zombie suddenly lunged at him and bit down hard. In the chaos, the officer accidentally shot out the car's tire. Now, their only ride was completely disabled. With no other option, they had to set out on foot toward the police station in town, hoping to find help. But the dangers only multiplied. Out of nowhere, a zombie charged and attacked the sheriff. Meanwhile, Mina was knocked down by a female zombie, dropping her handgun onto the ground. With more and more zombies closing in, Reyes had no time to worry about anyone else. Luckily, the prisoner stepped up just in time. He grabbed the fallen gun and took down the attacking zombie, saving Mina. But the sheriff wasn't so lucky. After biting his arm, the zombie suddenly bolted away, disappearing into the shadows. After Curly Guy saved Mina, she didn't even thank him. Instead, her first move was to warn him to hand over the gun. In her eyes, a prisoner was still a prisoner, far more dangerous than any zombie. But Curly Guy wasn't worried about himself. His main concern was the sheriff, who had been bitten. He'd seen with his own eyes how the driver and officer had turned after being bitten. Time was running out, and the number of zombies closing in was growing by the second. Reyes didn't have time for debate either. He threatened Curly Guy, ordering him to surrender the weapon. With no other choice, the group dashed forward, desperately trying to outrun the relentless horde. Luckily, they finally made it to the town's police station. They slammed the glass doors shut, keeping the zombies outside, for a moment at least. But what none of them expected was that the police station had already fallen. Even the officers inside had turned. Worse yet, the zombies didn't take long to break through the glass doors. The shattered glass scattered everywhere as the horde poured inside like a tidal wave. The group had no choice but to retreat to the office area, where they slammed down a rolling metal shutter to block the zombies once again. But that also meant they were trapped inside. Reyes tried to call for help, but the phone lines were completely dead. With no power in the police station, even the computers were useless. No way to send out an emergency signal. Their only option was to check the server room and see if the circuit had been cut somewhere. After quickly treating the sheriff's wound, Reyes took him with him to the server room, leaving Mina behind to keep an eye on the prisoner. On their way, they stumbled upon a few college students and the professor hiding in the jail area. With no better choice, Reyes brought them all back to the office for safety. But it wasn't long before the sheriff started showing strange symptoms. When he went to the bathroom and removed the bandage, he was shocked to find his wound covered in pus. Reyes knew instantly that the sheriff was about to turn. Reluctantly, Reyes left the sheriff in the office, and, unable to risk it, he unlocked the prisoner's handcuffs and took him along to the server room. At this point, it was just him and a handful of vulnerable people left. Reyes had no other choice. Mina's job was clear. Keep watch on the sheriff and be ready to shoot him before he fully turned. Before leaving, Reyes reluctantly insisted the timid college student come along as well. But no sooner had the three of them stepped out, the sheriff began showing clear signs of turning. Summoning the last bit of his fading consciousness, he begged Mina to put him out of his misery. Yet, when the moment came, Mina hesitated. She just couldn't bring herself to pull the trigger right away. It wasn't until the sheriff fully transformed into a zombie that she finally steeled herself and fired. Meanwhile, the other three reached the door of the server room. For safety, the college student stayed to guard the entrance while Reyes and the prisoner went inside. In the pitch-black room, they fumbled around and eventually found the main power switch. It looked like it had been tripped automatically. Reyes flipped the switch back on, but the power still didn't come on. That's when the prisoner took matters into his own hands, delivering a quick, forceful kick that fixed the problem in an instant. As the lights flickered on, they were horrified to see severed limbs and body parts scattered all over the floor. But the worst was yet to come. The electric rolling door suddenly began to lift on its own. Outside, hungry zombies were already swarming. A closer look revealed the horrifying cause. A severed hand was stuck pressing the button to open the door. With the gate rising wider and wider, the flood of zombies poured in like a relentless tidal wave. They immediately opened fire, but the sheer number of zombies was overwhelming. Reyes was the first to be knocked to the ground. You might think the prisoner would take this chance to run, but instead, he started shooting, taking down the zombies and saving Reyes's life. After all, in a situation like this, no one can make it out alone. With the help of the college student waiting outside, the two managed to slam the server room door shut behind them and made a quick escape. They rushed to reunite with the others, but when they passed by another office, they were horrified to see it crawling with zombies. Then, in a terrifying moment, one of the zombies smashed through the tempered glass, and the horde inside poured out. Luckily, the safe office was right next door. The three of them barely made it inside and barricaded the door with tables, holding the undead at bay. Seeing the sheriff lying dead weighed heavily on Reyes's mind. Mina was still frozen in shock, unable to process everything that had happened. The worst part? After all the trouble they went through to restore power, the computers still wouldn't work. They were truly trapped, with no way out. The only thing they could be thankful for was that the TV was still working, giving them a bit of distraction. Mina, ever the observant one, suddenly noticed that the program was actually live. On screen, countless zombies swarmed as a car sped through the chaos. And surprisingly, there was a survivor. It wasn't just anyone. It was the fearless bald guy. While most survivors are busy hiding or running for their lives, this guy was cool as a cucumber. He casually took down two zombies like it was nothing, with only a little dirt on his clothes to show for it.
And hell and death were cast into the pool of fire.
But honestly, his monologue was a bit out there, kind of like he was trying way too hard to sound deep. Strutting into a TV studio, he started preaching some big philosophical truths live on air. Reyes and the others watching the broadcast couldn't help but shake their heads. Even the professor scoffed, saying, "I seriously doubt this guy was released from prison. I think he escaped from a mental hospital." His ramblings made little sense, like he believed he was the only sane person left in the world.
To pay for the filth and toxic stench with which we have filled our seas and oceans.
But hey, at least he's got some strong environmental awareness. And surprisingly, there was a female student watching who seemed to share his passion for protecting the planet. Maybe it was listening to Bald Guy's words that pushed her over the edge. The female student suddenly snapped and seemed determined to throw herself into danger. Really, if you want to die, fine, but bringing zombies into the safe zone and endangering everyone else? No one could stop her, and in the end, the zombies got her. With the office no longer safe, the group had no choice but to make a break for it. Mina spotted a way out through the window, and Curly Guy didn't hesitate to use a chair to break through. But to everyone's surprise, the professor chose to stay behind. Being old and frail, he didn't want to slow the group down. With zombies closing in fast, Reyes respected the professor's decision and gave him a quick and merciful end. Then, the 5 survivors climbed out the window and stepped into the street. Luckily, the streets were clear of zombies, for now. But where to go next? After a quick discussion, they decided to head for the docks and take a boat across the river to another town, hoping it hadn't fallen yet. But just as they were about to reach their destination, they came across something incredibly strange. The zombies were lying all over the ground, sprawled out like they were asleep or maybe just sunbathing. No wonder they hadn't seen any zombies along the way. They had all gathered here. Still, there was no choice. This was the only path to the docks, and they had to get through. Reyes volunteered to take the risk and scout ahead. If the zombies stayed motionless, the others could follow quickly behind. But if he got spotted, he'd have to lure the horde away to buy everyone a chance to escape. With no better option, the others agreed. Reyes carefully stepped into the zombie crowd. At first, everything seemed fine. But when he reached the center, a zombie in a protective suit suddenly appeared and let out a terrifying roar toward the others. In an instant, all the zombies snapped awake. Reyes knew things had gone south and stuck to the plan. He started leading the horde away while the others ran toward the river as fast as they could. But no sooner had they taken a few steps than Mina suddenly stopped. She told the other three to head to the dock and get the boat ready for escape. She was going back alone to rescue Reyes. The two students didn't hesitate and set off immediately, but surprisingly, Curly Guy chose to go with Mina. This moment marked a turning point for Mina's opinion of him. She started to see he had some loyalty after all. Meanwhile, Reyes was in a dire situation, cornered by a horde of zombies inside a train carriage. Over at the dock, the two students finally found a usable boat. The guy told the girl to untie it while he hopped on to start the engine. But shockingly, the guy never planned to wait for anyone. He abandoned the girl and took off alone on the yacht. To make matters worse, two zombies spotted the girl and closed in. Just when all hope seemed lost, a car screeched up. It was Bald Guy, the wild card. With guns blazing, he quickly took out the two zombies in a flash. Though still a bit of a drama king, Bald Guy proved surprisingly reliable when it mattered most. Right after saving the girl, he rushed to help the others. Mina and Reyes were just about to get overwhelmed when Bald Guy showed up like some kind of guardian angel. This guy had every weapon imaginable, and seeing that, Mina and Reyes quickly armed themselves and launched into a fierce fight against the zombies. With that heavy firepower, the zombies were clearly outmatched. Fear really comes down to lacking the right firepower. Under their cover, Reyes managed to break free from the train carriage. But no sooner had he stepped outside than a zombie lunged at him. Just in time, Curly Guy appeared and tossed him a pistol. Reyes caught it without hesitation and took down the zombie with a clean shot. Before long, the ground was littered with zombie corpses, except for one, the Zombie King, still standing tall in his hazmat suit. Curly Guy boldly stepped forward, ready to face off against the Zombie King. Everyone expected a tough fight, but shockingly, after just one clash, Curly Guy swiftly took him down. With the Zombie King defeated, the immediate danger was finally over. In the end, Curly Guy decided to walk away on his own. Reyes and Mina didn't say much. They knew he'd saved their lives more than once already. As for the MVP of the day, Bald Guy, well, he just stood there spouting a bunch of weird, dramatic lines like only he can. And then there's the selfish guy, the one who ditched everyone on the yacht. Turns out, the boat wasn't exactly safe, because who would have thought a zombie was hiding right inside.